You're listening to That Sports Card Show with Vincent Tulo and AJ Tulo.
We are back with a hot off the presses new edition of That Sports Card Show. Well, it's been 3 weeks since we put up our last podcast. That was the one with NASCAR driver Landon Castle. One of the neatest things about that episode was getting to see like the everyday things that a NASCAR driver does. Like, I got a peek behind the curtain of the life of a NASCAR driver, if you will. He was talking to me while he was doing an autograph signing, and we did the actual interview in his Ford truck while he was on his way back to the garage at the track. So that was kind of a neat thing. But on to bigger and better things. This week we have 2 guests, and it was an absolute blast being able to get to talk to both of these guys and get them both on our show. First, we talked to Ben Scrivens. Ben Scrivens is the owner of Fright Rags. Fright Rags is a company that specializes in horror-themed t-shirts. And they have a new trading card release, and it's of the 1980s cult horror movie, The Re-animator. And then in the second half of the show, we talked to Cuyler Smith. Cuyler is an artist who's released a really interesting set, and it's called Trading Cards 2. And the subjects in the set are basically all of your favorite sports-related characters from movies and TV, mostly from like the 80s and 90s. And the characters such as the Water Boy, Al Bundy, Rocky Balboa, to name a few. So this was probably one of my favorite podcasts we've done so far. Just both guys were a real treat to talk to, and I might as well get to it. So here is Ben Scrivens. And we are joined today with Ben Scrivens. He runs Fright Rags, one of the most popular places around that you can get horror t-shirts, and he also has a new release, Re-animator. So, following the tradition of Wax Pack's movie releases, you've decided to do an officially licensed release of the 1985 cult classic, The Re-animator.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, for those people listening who might not be familiar with the movie, how would you describe it?
Oh man, it's it's a wacky one. It's definitely I would firmly put it in the cult classic category.
Yes.
I think what I love about it is that it's got a little bit of everything. It's got gore, it's got a ton of humor. I mean, really what all it is a black comedy. And it's just a lot of fun, wacky. If you like your horror kind of silly and offbeat, I'd definitely check this out.
Yeah, I've heard The Re-animator described as a science fiction horror comedy.
Yeah, okay, that's a good. I'd say that's pretty good. I mean, there's definitely some science fiction, and I think science fiction sort of throws it off a little bit, but I wouldn't totally disagree with that.
Yeah, and it's loosely based on a H.P. Lovecraft novella, the name
Correct.
of which escapes me, but is that correct?
It is correct, and I agree. Yeah, I don't remember. Oh, I should know this, but I don't remember the name off the top of my head either.
Yeah. Okay, so what is this movie about?
Well, it's about a Dr. Herbert West who is looking to be able to reanimate dead tissue or bring people back to life. So he's been working on this serum to do that, and basically he finally gets it to a point where he is he can get it to work, but he's been basically kicked out of places. And he finally lands at a med school where his the lead doctor and his teacher is basically against him, and he ends up killing him and bringing him back to life. And basically the doctor and him go at it, and it's a bunch of hijinks basically.
So that doctor,
sort of a love triangle, and
so that doctor, the part you're leaving out, which is a very important part, that is a doctor who you will see throughout the movie, who is basically a head in a tray.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Spoiler alert, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, it came out in 1985.
Oh, I know. No, I'm kidding.
If they haven't seen it by now, shame on them.
Yeah, if you don't know it by now.
Okay, so back to this release. What is the makeup of this set? What can we expect from a box of this product when we buy a box of it?
So we tried to. So I should kind of rewind a little bit and letting you know, like, this is our first trading card release, and
okay.
And this is something that we wanted to get into primarily because I wanted to see some really cool trading cards for movies that I never had, trading cards, or that never had trading cards when I was a kid. And, I used to collect things like Garbage Pail Kids and things like that. But so getting into this particular pack, we worked with the company that put this together and that printed it for us, and we were working with a couple other people kind of in the know, because as much as I love trading cards, I wasn't really hip to a lot of the knowledge in terms of what goes in, what coincides a set. So when we put it together, so you're going to get in a set, there's a base set of 60 cards, and then there's 23 chase cards, and those are character cards, behind the scene cards, and then there's a sketch card. We have about 10 people that did sketch cards for us. They did a number of each cards themselves, and then we have Barbara Crampton, who plays Meg Hazley or Halsey, I forget the last name, in Re-Animator. She signed an autograph card. So if you have a complete set, you'll have the 60 base cards, 23 chase cards, a sketch card, and an autograph card.
So this sounds like it is what a lot of people call a limited edition type product.
Yes, it is. It's not. This particular one is not something that's an open edition. This is what we tried to do is we tried to cater to different collectors. We have, obviously, you can buy it as an individual wax pack. We created a factory box, which has the base cards. I believe, oh gosh, why is this escaping me? It's got a few of the chase cards, and you have either a sketch card or an autograph card in there. Those are randomly inserted. But if you buy a sealed box, you're getting 2 complete sets, all the chase cards, a sketch card, and an autograph card. So they are, nice. Are limited edition.
So you mentioned autograph cards. How many subjects are there with autograph cards in the set?
We only have one person that signed. So it's Barbara Crampton signed 200 cards for us. So those are randomly inserted.
Okay. Barbara Crampton. Now, she is known as a scream queen. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
She's been in quite a few horror movies, maybe in the past, maybe not so recently.
Actually, she's kind of had, I don't know if I want to call her resurgence, but recently she definitely has been in the past. She was in From Beyond and Chopping Mall, and oh gosh, the list goes on. But also recently she's been in movies like Beyond the Gates, We Are Still Here. There's a couple. You're Next. So, I mean, she's definitely been in a bunch of things. She's actually filming a new movie coming up in the next couple of weeks. She was telling me about last week. So, yeah, she's definitely she's still working quite a bit.
Well, that's good to know. So, how did you pick this movie as the first release in this? You did say you're having a series of movie cards to come. Yeah.
So it was a little bit of personal desire, but it was also a bit of just logistics, meaning, when we decided to go ahead and do trading cards, we were thinking about what licenses might make sense. And we wrote down a bunch of ones that we already had in terms of just what we were doing shirts for. And depending on the license, it can get pretty complicated. So, for instance, if we have I'm just trying to think in off the top of my head, but if we have a major movie that we have a license for, let's just say Jaws, let's just call that one out. You know, we had already had a license for Jaws through Universal Studios, but we did not have a license for trading cards. So we thought, well, in order to get trading cards added to that license, it was going to be a little bit more of an uphill battle, because we'd have to talk to the studio, they'd have to talk to their legal department, we'd have to have a whole thing about it. But
yeah,
Re-Animator is owned by the producer Brian Usna, and I was able to we already had a license for Re-Animator as well for shirts and other things, and it was actually coming up to renewal, and it was just kind of the timing of it all when we were thinking about the trading card things. And I just shot him an email. I said, hey, would you mind us doing trading cards for this? And he said, no, I think that would be great. So we knew that was going to be an easier one for us to just jump into. At the same time, I was also thinking, wow, it would be really cool to have a Re-Animator trading card set. So it was a little bit of both of that. However, we are going to be doing a series of these. So we actually started this about 2.5 years ago. It's actually been that long in the making. It took us in again, the time it took, it was trying to figure out where to get these done and who to make them and how to get them done the way we wanted them to. And then it was also gathering the source material, putting together the set, getting them approved, lining up all the pieces. While we were doing that, though, we were signing licenses for other trading cards and getting those in the works. So Re-Animator was just sort of the spark, but we knew we wanted to do this for several other titles.
This is going to be really popular. I think that a lot of the visuals in the Re-Animator really lend themselves to trading cards.
I totally agree. In fact, when we were going through the set, and again, you know, we weren't given images to use necessarily. You know, they didn't give us like this file of assets to just pull from. We had to get everything ourselves for the most part. So a lot of them are screen grabs from a Blu-ray or promotion materials that we had access to. So, you know, it was in some ways hard, but in other ways it was also kind of fun. Liz, who works with us, she helps out with customer service. She helps out in our warehouse. We gave her the task of doing all this, and she's been having a blast putting this together, and she's been doing a great job. And I agree, Re-Animator has a lot of great visuals for cards.
Mm-hmm. Now, I was perusing your Instagram, and I happened to see you have a name for this series or upcoming series of cards. Mm-hmm. It is the House of Fright, correct?
That's correct.
Now, have you thought about what the next release might be?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've already got it in the works. So right now, we've got the titles that we are currently working on, even though the release dates are sort of up in the air right now, are Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, so 1974. The original John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. Dawn of the Dead, the original from 1978. And then we've also signed, those are some
heavy hitters.
Yeah. So that, you know, we wanted to start with Re-Animator to sort of gauge popularity, you know, and again, it's a cult classic. I get it. It's not for everybody, especially when you're mixing a cult classic with something like trading cards. But I knew being able to get Dawn of the Dead, being able to get Texas Chainsaw and Halloween. Halloween's my personal favorite movie of all time. So
it's classic.
It really opened up a doorway for us, and we've even signed other titles like House of a Thousand Corpses, and there's a couple other. Actually, we have all the Universal titles that we currently have licenses for have trading cards. So things like Jaws, E.T., They Live, The Thing, American Werewolf in London, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, those titles. So I don't, for Universal though, I will say I can't guarantee a full set for each, just because we are very limited in what we can do with Universal properties. They only allow us to use certain images. So for those, we're still figuring out what to do. It could be, we're gonna have fun with it, you know. Like Re-Animator, like I said, it's a first go for us, and we're learning a lot from the community after we put those out, and it's been awesome, the feedback, because we weren't sure what to expect. There's people like yourself and other fans that are used to kind of the trading card world, and I'm getting a lot of feedback from forums, which has been great. So we're kind of fine tuning our process, and it's only going to get better from here. But we also want to have fun with it. So we might do sets like we did with Re-Animator. We might do sort of like a Fright Flicks thing where it's like different movies in one. We might do just a very limited edition thing where all you need to get is one pack, but it might have 10 cards and that's all you need, but it's just going to be that. That's why we want to call it under the umbrella House of Fright wax packs, because everything we do is going to be sort of that wax pack type of thing.
Okay. Now, I had looked all over the internet for the information concerning what your next releases might be.
Mm-hmm.
Had you released that information anywhere else, or is that That Sports Card Show exclusive that you just dropped?
A couple of those titles are definitely exclusive to your show. I have mentioned it in passing to people via comments on Facebook, or I think I might have made mention to it on one of those non-sports card forums, maybe Blowout Cards, or there's another forum I was on.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've actually officially announced it to anybody, so you can consider this an exclusive. That's cool with me.
All right, everybody, you heard it. This is a That Sports Card Show exclusive drop on the info. That's our first exclusive.
Nice.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Ben.
Absolutely.
Where can we get the Re-Animator product? Everybody's going to want to run out and get it. When can we get it, and where can we get it?
Well, they are currently on sale now. They're on pre-order right now. They will be shipping probably mid-April, so we still have a few more weeks. We're almost done with them in terms of printing and collating and everything. But you can go to frightrags.com, but that's fright-rags.com. You have to put the hyphen in there. They have been on sale since March 1st, and I have to say that the response has been huge. In fact,
I believe it.
Yeah, the sealed boxes are almost gone. I think we literally have 4 left. The factory boxes, we still have some, and wax packs, we still have some. But honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect on March 1st when we launched it, and the feedback and the response have been great.
Well, besides producing top quality trading cards now, you also produce top quality apparel as well. So tell us about your company, Fright Rags.
So Fright Rags was sort of born out of my desire to just do something different. I started it back in 2003. It was something I was a graphic designer by trade. That's where I got my degree in graphic design. I was working as a designer at a local laptop bag company. It was a very small company. It was cool because I got to do a lot of different things. I was doing print advertisement and some video stuff from some web stuff, but it was all based on one thing. So after about a year of that, I was getting a little antsy. And this was before my wife and I got married. We were living together in an apartment. We didn't even have a house yet or kids or anything. So I had a little bit of extra time on my hands. And around that time, I was, this is before Facebook and Twitter and all that. So I would just be on forums a lot and just kind of talking to people. And I would be on these horror forums, but more like the collectors of masks and props and things, and people who make those things, like hockey masks and Michael Myers masks and things like that. And I just loved all that stuff. And I didn't have the money to buy it, but I loved all that stuff. And I would talk to people, and I thought, I want to do something. I want to do something. And I couldn't make a Myers mask, or I couldn't get a vacuform table to make a Jason mask or anything. And it was crazy. So I thought, I had these kind of ideas for designs that might look cool on a shirt. And I put together a couple ideas. My first main idea was, it just said WW hockey mask, and it had a hockey mask and then a D and a question mark. So it was around the time that What Would Jesus Do was sort of like this thing wearing. And I just thought, what would Jason do? And it was a funny thing to me. It made me laugh. And I put together that design, and I thought, oh God, someone must have done this before. And I scoured the internet, and I scoured it. I couldn't find any reference to that parody. So I showed it to my friend on the forum, and he said, you should post this on my forum. He was his name's Justin. He ran a site called Night Owl Forums, and he made the best Michael Myers masks and Jason and all those other masks. So I said, okay, I'll post it there. And people were commenting like, that's awesome. I'd buy that. That looks so cool. So I've never, I wouldn't ever consider myself someone who had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've always wanted to start things. I've always been creative. I've always been interested in stuff like that, but I've never actually done anything about it. So it was Labor Day weekend, 2003. I came up with a name, Fright Rags. I came up with a really basic logo. I coded a really basic website, linked it up to PayPal, and I spent $600 that I did not have. I put it on my credit card and ordered like 20. I ordered 60 shirts, 20 of each design, and put it up for sale. And people started sending me money, and I couldn't believe it. It was like the coolest thing.
I love hearing stories like that, how people aren't afraid to try to do something, you know?
And well, that's just it, you know, and I don't really know what changed at that moment, but it really is about that. It's just about trying something. And here's the thing. I didn't do that and then all of a sudden to quit my job and everything was hunky-dory. Like, you know, I got a few orders and I was able to sell some shirts, and then I met a local printer through my work, and he was much cheaper than where I was getting my shirts online. So that worked. And, you know, I was getting like, you know, I would get like an order every week, you know, or every 2 weeks. You know, it was very, you know, I had like 3 boxes of shirts in my spare room in my apartment. Like, it just wasn't like a thing. But for me, I just kept thinking about it. I kept working at it. I kept working and coming up with new designs and new ideas. And yeah, you know, there were times where I thought, I'm just going to give this up. You know, we're moving into a house. We just got married. And then all of a sudden an order would come in and I think, oh man, that person's in Australia and they just found my site and sent me money just to buy a shirt. Like, that's a cool feeling.
Yeah.
So I just kept going with it.
Yeah. 90% of success is just showing up, just putting in the effort to just show up.
Well, they say it takes 5 years to become an overnight success, and I believe it.
Yeah. So you were a horror fan first before you started your company.
Yes, definitely. You know, when it was that summer before I started Fright Rags, and I was thinking of things that I could do to start. And my interests were, you know, I have a lot of different interests. I mean, I like guitar, I like, you know, obviously movies, drawing, things like that. But horror was always something. I mean, I've been into horror almost all my life. So that was just a natural thing to start with in terms of subject matter.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times it takes a horror fan to know what other horror fans are going to like. You know, you take a big box store and they want to put out a couple T-shirts because there's a horror movie that comes out. You know, those shirts are going to be lame, let's face it.
Yeah.
But somebody who's a horror fan who knows what they want in a T-shirt, they're going to put out something that's going to be popular with other horror fans.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I think that's what was really the reason for the company being able to keep going and growing, because at the time I had looked, you know, I liked all sorts of weird shirts when I was a kid. I actually have a quilt that my wife made me that has all my old T-shirts. And they're not horror. They're just random shirts. I loved wearing weird and crazy shirts when I was a kid and as I got older as a teenager and everything. So I was always into T-shirts. But as a horror fan, I didn't have any horror T-shirts. I had like 1 or 2 promotional shirts. And when I went looking for other horror T-shirts before I started Fright Rags, there was only one company. That was Rotten Cotton. And, you know, it's not that I didn't like their stuff. It's just, it wasn't for me. It was all poster art on a T-shirt, black, or it was white and red usually on a black T-shirt. You know, and it didn't speak to me. I wanted something that was a little more, for lack of a better term, I guess, smart, if you will, or just more tongue-in-cheek or something. Like that What Would Jason Do idea for me, that spoke to me because it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it and instantly get it. They know what it means, but as a horror fan, it's that kind of extra meaning to it. And a lot of our early designs, you know, didn't have titles on it. It would be like, basically, you kind of had to be in the know. You had to sort of be in that horror club, if you will, to kind of know. And that's really where it spawned from. I mean,
plus it has kind of a timely reference. I mean, maybe not so now, but at the time, that was a timely reference because that was, you know, a saying that was going around. It was on every bumper sticker that you saw, you know, the What Would Jesus Do?
Yep.
And so it was appealing to that as well.
Yeah, and I think, you know, at the time, there weren't many sites jumping on things like that. Like these days, the barrier to do something like this, to make a T-shirt site, you don't even have to know one lick of code. I mean, you can have a T-shirt site up and running in probably half an hour and still not have any inventory to really have to worry about because you're going to have fulfillment centers make it. And it's so easy these days, and there's so many sites, not just horror sites. I mean, so many t-shirt sites that as soon as there's an idea comes out, it's already been killed because people have done it 30,000 times.
Yeah.
And it's harder to be, original, especially with a parody these days, because as soon as one thing's out, it's like everyone's jumped on it. So
you have to stay on your toes.
You do. And it's even harder these days in that sense if you're going to do that kind of work. And not everything we did was parody. That wasn't totally the goal, but it is a little bit harder these days to be original.
So what are some of the more popular items that you guys are selling these days at Fright Rags?
Well, these days, pretty much everything we do is licensed, with a few exceptions when we do some parodies or some more original type things. But so of those titles, Halloween is always a big seller for us. We just released our Thing collection the other day, John Carpenter's The Thing. That was actually a really big release for us. In fact, we knew that there was some good hype around it, but it even exceeded our expectations. Some of the things we've gotten into over the recent years have been socks. And those are actually selling great for us. We were at a show last week and sold out almost of all of our socks. So that's been a fun thing to kind of work with. Mm-hmm. And just a few titles that seem to pop are Halloween, The Thing, Evil Dead has always been good for us.
Oh yeah, there's a big cult following with that Evil Dead.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One title that we worked with that we were that I honestly didn't. I mean, I love the movie, but I didn't know what to expect was Deathgasm. That was a really, really fun one to do. It's a independent film, and it's a really great film. And we were lucky enough that they wanted us to do shirts for it, and people really responded to that. So it's not even just the bigger films. Sometimes it can be something that's sort of culty or new and independent.
Oh, for sure. So are those the new products you've got going on, or do you have any kind of new specials or products down there that you want people to know about?
Well, I would say the cards are probably the newest thing that I want to make sure we're kind of letting people know about, because it is so different for us. I mean, we're known for shirts, and even things like socks aren't, too far away from shirts because they're still something you wear. Trading cards are a little bit of a curveball for some people, even though, I mean, we've done other non-apparel items before, but certainly the trading cards are one of the biggest things that we're really trying to get people aware of right now. This Wednesday, though, we are releasing a brand new collection of Predator products. It's going to be T-shirts, and we're also doing 2 masks. So the masks that we make are referencing the old Ben Cooper Collegeville style plastic. You get them in that window box, and they come with like a vinyl costume, and
like elementary school kids used to wear.
Totally, it's exactly that. So we've been doing those for the past 4 years or so, maybe longer. I don't remember. No, it's been about 4 years. And we will release that not with the costume, but we'll put a special shirt and a mask together in a box like that. And we've done them for Trick or Treat. We've done them for Jaws. We did that for Tarman, Terminator. So we did them for the General Mills monsters, Frankenberry, Boo Berry, and Count Chocula.
Wow, I bet that was cool.
Oh yeah, and so we're releasing 2 Predator masks. In fact, the one Predator mask, it's him without his helmet on, and it's pretty much the standard version. The variant one, we call it the ugly MFer version. It's actually based on the Fright Flicks trading card pack. In fact, the box actually looks like a Fright Flicks trading card pack, and because the Predator was featured on one of the covers, and he's got this cool like purplish paint job to him, so we decided to make one like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So where can people find you on social media and websites and that kind of thing? Instagram, Facebook? Yeah,
so you can, I'm on, basically it's Fright Rags, all one word, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Also, I'm on Snapchat at Fright Rags. You can just look up Fright Rags, all one word, and you'll find me. And our website is fright-rags.com, so that's where you have to put the hyphen in. But anywhere else, it's just Fright Rags, one word.
Okay. And I think that's it. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up here?
No, I mean, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I appreciate everybody's feedback on the trading cards specifically. And if if anybody has any additional feedback for those trading cards, they can contact me directly at ben@fright-rags.com.
I think you've got a big hit on your hands with these House of Fright cards you've got lined up.
Thanks, man. I hope so, because we're really excited for them. We really are jazzed for the next round.
And I think you're on to something.
Thanks.
Okay, Ben Scrivens, I thank you very much for calling into our show. And anytime you want to call in to talk about anything you've got going on, feel free.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
And I almost forgot to mention that last week we gave away 6 Ball Cube UV baseball display cubes. You can check out some of the pictures that the winners posted on our Instagram page. And thanks to our friends at Ball Cube for helping us out with that giveaway. And stay tuned. There will be another Ball Cube giveaway that we'll be doing very soon. And not to mention, we've got a couple other giveaways that are kind of in the works right now. So, don't forget to go to ballqube.com, ballcube.com. Free shipping on orders over $75. Made in the USA with high quality materials. Check out Ball Cube's Facebook page, their Twitter page, and their Instagram page. Now, let's hear from Cuyler Smith. Cuyler Smith, how's it going?
Doing great. About yourself?
I'm fantastic. So, maybe I'm a little late to the party, but I just recently discovered your latest set called Trading Cards 2.
Mm-hmm.
When were these released, and what exactly are these? I'd never heard of these before.
Well, they're actual trading cards, but they're based on fictional athletes. So I had a show last year with Gallery 1988, which was the first show where I debuted 40 cards, all based on fictional athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And the show was received very well. So I was asked to do another one, and we just wrapped up the second exhibit. So Trading Cards 2 just finished up, but everything's still online at gallery1988.com.
Yeah.
But I just added on 40 more cards. And with a couple of special releases, I'm at a total of 87 cards right now in the series.
Okay. This is a little overwhelming. See, I'm kind of a traditional card guy. I'm used to this traditional kind of sets. You just said these are studio releases, like from an art studio?
From an art gallery.
Or art gallery.
In conjunction with an art gallery, yes. It's like a pop culture gallery dealing a lot with the entertainment industry and movies and films. So that's why everything's kind of geared towards those fictional characters that you'll see in sports movies.
Okay, so these cards are based off actual artwork that you've made for a gallery, or was this like a release just for these cards?
Well, they are actual trading cards that the artwork is done by myself. So they start out with traditional sketches, and then I color them in the computer, shrink them down to the baseball card size.
Oh, okay.
And based on when the film came out, I try to make sure that the card matches that era. So it kind of works with the time period, because I was a huge baseball card collector when I was growing up. So want to make them as authentic as possible, and they are traditional baseball cards. They are front and back. They also come in a top loader, and they actually have complete sets available. And for the first time this year for this show, I created packs. So I have limited edition where you can get 5 cards in a pack, and there's 1 card that only comes in packs. And then there's also the opportunity to get a previously sold out card from last year's show, where most of that's completely sold out at this point. If you purchase the pack, you have an option for getting a previously sold out artist proof as well.
Wow, fantastic. So the basis of these cards appears to be fictional sports characters from movies and TV, mostly from the 80s and 90s. Are all these based on movies that you were like a fan of? Or what was your inspiration for these?
Well, I'm a huge movie buff myself, and inspiration came from it all started. I'll kind of backtrack a little bit here. The first card I ever made was working with the same gallery. They had a show based on Tom Hanks movies, and I was trying to think of something that would be a little bit more unique and different than just a basic, straightforward piece of artwork or a print. And I wanted to do a League of Their Own piece based off Jimmy Dugan. And I had finished a portrait, and I was like, well, how can I make this one a little bit different to kind of stand out from the crowd?
Yeah.
So I decided to print out the size of a baseball card. Now, it was just a standard art proof and just a print, so it wasn't double-sided. But I did it just to kind of see how the response was, and that's one of my most sought-after cards. I only did a run of 20, and they sold out like immediately. And after that response, I started to do a couple more just releases with the gallery, and they all completely sold out really, really fast. And that led to the trading card show, which I did last year, actually to the day, where it debuted in March. And I had 40 new cards there, but they all were based off of those movies that I watched when I grew up. Mighty Ducks, Varsity Blues, Major League, all these characters that I was very fond of, and that, there's been some art pieces from them, but there's never been like something that's almost collectible, as it were, and something that a lot of the fans could really enjoy. And that's just something that I'm very proud of, that it kind of hit a chord with that audience.
Yeah, that first piece that you were talking about, the Tom Hanks movie, The League of Their Own, that's pretty cool because it has a tie-in with baseball and with the baseball card. So It goes hand in hand.
Yes, many of them, that was the first one that kind of started out with baseball, and then from there we kind of spread out the different ones, and we got a little bit more to where, it might not be for a specific like sports movie, but it might be like a little segment of a movie that involves a sports character, and then we also branched into like TV shows and some that are a little bit more obscure, but those are the ones that actually are surprising people the most. I think people that really go after those. Like I did one for Irv Blitzer, the coach from Cool Runnings. I did one for basketball, and a couple ones that people probably weren't expecting, but they're all, a traditional baseball card, but dealing with all of those sport films.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the characters that you've got in these. Waterboy, Rocky, Karate Kid. They're fantastic. But I got to say, without a doubt, of all the ones I've seen, my favorite is the Thornton Mellon, the Rodney Dangerfield card from Back to School.
That was a fun one to make.
It mentions the triple Lindy on the back of the card, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun too. Is actually like researching, because going back trying to figure out because I have like quotes on the back, and then every card has a number, so it all matches like in the set. And there's a few collectors that have the entire set, so all 87 cards, which is amazing to find out that they've collected all of them at this point. But I'll have like a little quote, and then I'll have information and stats, whatever I can find about that actual character. So there's like an information, like a little bio for each fictional character as well.
So it sounds like there is a low print run on these cards.
Exactly, yeah. They my first show had a run of 80, and this show we did a run of 90, and some of those went into the limited edition packs, but they're extremely low editions and low runs on these cards.
So what's the price point on these for people that might be interested in picking some of these up?
Exactly. Well, they start at $15. That's going to get you the card, and it also comes with a free top loader. So you can buy them individually. Some will have already sold out, but there are still options that are available in the packs. I still have about half of the packs left. And the packs run $85 because you get 5 cards, and then you also get that chase card, which is extremely rare. It has a lower edition of like 45, and you can only get them in the packs. Or you'll also get an artist proof, which is those extremely sought after ones that you'll find out on eBay that have been sold out. I don't have any more copies left whatsoever, except for what I put in randomly into the pack. So that's kind of like the last option to try to get some of those few cards.
So what subject is the chase card? Or is there more than one?
The chase card is actually, it's Air Bud. It's just a random fun one that we did for the 50th card. And that's just one when we came up with the idea, myself and the gallery owner, of something that would be unique and kind of bring that trading card experience to the series, because I was always very familiar with like trying to get that one card and trying to make sure I buy as many packs as possible just to kind of see when I opened it if I would actually get it.
Yeah.
So we came up with the idea of a base card, and then we just decided to do something funny with it. So we just made it Airbud, because we actually got a lot of requests to kind of, why don't you do Airbud? So we just kind of threw that in there for fun.
Airbud,
So
that was the basketball playing dog from the early 90s, if I'm correct. Is that
exactly? Yeah,
Yeah.
it spawned off like I think he's played every sport from this point on. But yeah, we
has he?
for the basketball one. Yeah, there's a lot of movies that I found out doing the research, but we just stuck with the basketball theme for the first one, just kind of as a fun little idea that we went through.
Yeah, some of those, like Airbud 1, I'm sure was basketball, but by the time you get to Airbud 6 or 7, it might have been straight to Blockbuster, and nobody really saw what, Airbud, the hockey edition was, So,
Exactly.
So do you have any plans on doing Trading Cards 3?
Well, as a matter of fact, it was just announced through the gallery not too long ago that, yes, there are plans. I'm going to do one more show, Trading Cards 3, so I'm already working on creatively which characters I have in mind. I have most of it planned out, but I'm going to kind of streamline it here as we get closer, but that'll be sometime next year in 2018. So we've been doing them about once a year here since I started, and it's been a blast.
So you already have a good idea of the characters that you want to do for the next set. Well, for these past two sets, the artwork in the cards is fantastic. I mean, it really captures the iconic likenesses of the characters. These are really familiar characters. So if something's off or something isn't right with the character, people are going to know right away. But the reaction I've seen everybody with these cards is they love them. It's like an old friend.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's very nostalgic, of course.
Yeah. So how did you get started in the art world?
Oh, well, I've been an artist for a while. Actually, I moved out to California and I got my bachelor's in animation. So I have a little bit of an animation background, and I went and got my master's in illustration. I've been doing a lot of freelance work, and it's all kind of been in the entertainment industry. So I do like movie posters. I've done some DVD covers and steelbook covers, and I've been working with this particular gallery for quite a while now, and just exhibiting through them. We've built up a great teamwork and friendship, and it's just led to these shows. And I did that Jimmy Dugan card, and from there, they just asked me, would you like to do this solo show? And I just jumped on it. It's been a dream come true, and it's just been a blast just to keep working on these characters, because you see how people respond to them, and it's something that I'm very passionate about as well. And it's been a blast to work on the whole project. I can't wait to do another one.
Yeah. So you worked on movie posters and DVD covers and stuff?
Mm-hmm. I've done like the most recent ones. I designed the Resident Evil steelbook covers, and I also did for the Inferno movie, that Tom Hanks movie that came out not too long ago.
Yeah.
So just did those steelbook covers. I believe they're exclusive to Best Buy. You can still get them. At this point, they just released, I think, a couple of months ago.
Wow, that's impressive.
Thank you.
So I heard you mention that you used to be a collector of cards yourself. Was that when you were a kid, or is it something you still do?
I haven't done it in a while. It was actually when I was a kid, like late 80s, early 90s is when I was really, really into it, like right when Upper Deck really started to come around. That was like at the peak of when I was collecting. It's something that I did with my dad, and I just really enjoyed, collecting. And then, as an artist, I just always enjoyed like how they were designed.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like the fun of, trying to find those cards that seemed almost impossible to obtain. And then I was always the kid that was always at my local baseball card shop, just hanging out for hours on end, just looking at everything and trading, and always trying to get as many autographs as I could from the players. So it was just a blast. It's fun just to kind of see that this series is kind of taking on that same excitement.
Yeah. So would you ever consider doing a set of maybe different kind of subject matter besides movie and TV characters? Have you thought about that?
I thought about different avenues that I could take the series. I think at this point I'm still going to stick to the fictional athletes, but the benefit of kind of working with this is like they had trading cards for several things. I mean, you look back too, they had them for TV shows, they had them for movies. You know, they have the popular Star Wars trading cards they've had come out. So I mean, there's always possibilities to do something different with it. But I think for the next one, I'm still just going to stick with, you know, the fictional athletes. We might get into some different sports that people might not expect or haven't seen just yet in the trading cards.
Few
kind of like how we did with the Triple Lindy. Yeah. So I got a few surprises in store for the next one, but it's just fun to come up with them, and I have a blast with each and every one. Everyone always asks me which one is my favorite. I can't pick because each one is extremely special to me, and I have a fond memory of watching those films or seeing those characters. So it's just been a blast.
You mentioned Star Wars cards. That was originally what got me into collecting when I was a kid, was the movie cards.
Oh, really?
It wasn't sports cards. I loved the Star Wars cards. Grease. I know it might be hard to believe, but at the time, I thought it was great. There was a set for Grease, the movie. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all that stuff. That's what got me into collecting. And then as I got older, I got into the sports, and then I totally abandoned collecting movie and TV cards. But that was what originally got me into cards.
I kind of had the same thing. I think what got me into the baseball cards was back in the day with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was like my life at that point. I believe they had cards for the movies that came out around that time, and I started collecting those, and then that led into the baseball cards as well. Yeah, it was a blast. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's all right around that same time frame.
So, sorry, what was that? I couldn't hear you.
Oh, that's all kind of around that same early 90s time frame when the Upper Deck started getting big, and the King Griffey Jr. card and all that.
Yes, that was the one I was always trying to find. That, and there was a Frank Thomas card too that I never got my hands on. I was trying to get for a long, long time.
So, where can people find your work to purchase it if they want to get a hold of these packs, which I'm sure they do?
Gallery1988.com. Now, the show just wrapped up last week. But they still do have an icon, so if you go to the main webpage at gallery1988.com, you'll see an image of one of my cards. You can click on that card, and that will take you to the whole show that just wrapped, Trading Cards 2. The other option is there's a little search icon, and you can just type in my name, Cuyler Smith, Cuyler Smith, and it'll show all of the cards. So there's still a couple from the first show that are still available, but that's the best place to get it. And then I also have a few artist proofs. Basically what that is, those are my personal copies that I get after the print run from the trading cards. So there's only about like 4 to 5 artist proof per card. And there's a couple of those left on my own personal website, which is CuylerSmith.com. And you can just click on the store icon there.
That sounds fantastic. Is there anything else you want to promote or anything you want to announce before we wrap this up?
Oh, well, just, cards are still selling out every day. So if you're really interested in the cards, I would jump on them, especially that Rocky and a few others. They have less than 10 left in the edition. But just really appreciate everybody checking out my work and enjoying the series. And I hope everybody has as much fun with them and enjoys them as much as I had creating them. And then I just want to make sure and thank the Gallery 1988, their entire crew, for helping me out and making this dream of mine become a reality. And it's been a pleasure.
Well, Cuyler Smith, I thank you for calling in. And when that trading card set 3 comes out, make sure you call back and let us know, and we'll talk about it.
I definitely will. That'd be fantastic.
Okay. Cuyler Smith, thank you.
Thank you.
Check out ballcube.com for all your memorabilia, display, and storage needs. And don't forget to check us out on Twitter at TSCS Podcast, at Sports Card Show. Also check us out on our Facebook page, and feel free to email us with any comments or show ideas at thatsportscardshow@gmail.com. We'll see you next episode.
Bye.